Welcome to my video, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how I confuse the sounds of Russian and European Portuguese. I don't really have this problem so much with Brazilian Portuguese because it sounds very different than the European variant. And I'll talk about some of the methods, the mental techniques I use to kind of separate the two and improve my focus so that I not only know which one I'm listening to, but I'm able to just mentally separate them a little bit better. And you'll see how other methods I've talked about kind of play into this. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of Russian first, and then the European Portuguese.
За эти кредиты потом нужно будет расплачиваться, и мы понимаем, что даже если карантин продлится 2 или 3 месяца, то за эти месяцы мы денег-то не заработаем для того, чтобы оплачивать эти кредиты. Поэтому это больше похоже на какое-то оттягивание смерти, знаете, когда уже смертный приговор тебе вынесен, а казнь назначили через полгода.
Заговорили о том, что надо внести, книжную индустрию в список отраслей наиболее пострадавших.
Now, first of all, this is not exactly formal speech by the sounds of it. These are just people talking off the cuff. So yeah, the broadcasting language is going to sound a bit, I guess, smoother and clearer. But anyway, just the sounds. So there's that. And now we move to Portuguese.
Numa altura em que o país avança a um ritmo crescente de novos casos de coronavírus, milhares de valas são abertas com a perspectiva da elevada mortalidade por Covid-19. São mais de 13 mil valas abertas no cemitério de Vila Formosa. O sistema de saúde aproxima-se da saturação. Na Grande São Paulo, 89% dos leitos nas unidades de...
Now, if you speak Russian or Portuguese, you can probably very easily say, yeah, that sounds foreign. But to the uninitiated or those, who are learning, sometimes languages can sound very alike, or you're just having a hard time understanding it at all. To me, listening comprehension is the hardest part of studying any language because people don't speak perfectly. And even if they do, that's only going to be in certain contexts. Now, because I mostly want to be able to understand news broadcasts and primary literature for academic reasons, it's okay that that's basically where I understand them best. And news is supposed to be very clear. Now, because I've used the separation techniques, these don't sound quite alike like they used to. However, I can definitely tell some of the similarities, the vowels especially. And if I don't practice the separation techniques, then my brain will just think it's listening to Portuguese when I'm trying to listen to Russian. The way that I get around this is with the writing practice. While writing, I listen to the sounds, and if you do this enough, then you can start matching the spoken words with the written words. And doing this for enough many hours. It takes a while for this to happen, but your brain will make that connection and it'll be retained in your memory. And it'll just be used to doing it. It'll be used to matching those and separating. That's what the brain does. You cram all this input in there and you try to make some kind of sense out of it because the brain will look for patterns. Well, you need to give them the patterns. Make it easier for yourself. I've studied Portuguese. I started about 3 years ago. So when I listen to this, I can understand most of it. But when I picked up Russian, my brain already knows the sounds of Portuguese. So it's going to search for the patterns. And because there's some superficial similarities in terms of the vowels and even some of the consonants and just the general cadence, my brain was going, oh, you're listening to Portuguese. And then it gets kind of confused when I'm telling it, no, this is Russian. You need to, pay attention to the Russian. And that, again, the writing. And you need to focus. You need to push against any kind of mental barrier. It's a bit of a hurdle. I call it the exhaustion hurdle. Your brain will get tired because it's a lot of work, right? Input is coming in very quickly and you're demanding a lot out of your brain. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, okay, these people...
Пострадавших, да, от коронавирусной эпидемии. Вот. Но это все, вот они пока это внесут, пока они там начнут думать.
If I'm thinking, okay, I need to sense a pattern in what he's saying, but I'm used to the Portuguese and I let myself kind of sit in that familiarity, then it's going to search in vain for Portuguese context. I don't want it to do that. I want to separate it. So, while I'm writing down this new story over here, I listen to this.
Как это помогает, там, пока они там... извините, как бы, а нам деньги как бы нужны, чтобы людям платить зарплату, чтобы они покупали продукты.
На компании, которые паразитируют на бизнесе других.
Of how Russian is spelled and pronounced. As I'm doing this, I'm paying attention to the words I'm looking at and that I'm writing down in straining to also comprehend what I'm hearing. This takes a lot of practice. Don't expect this to be immediate. And that's where you need to manage expectations. I'm going to have to listen to hundreds of hours and study this for hundreds of hours to get to the point where it all makes sense. Now, it's going faster than it would have a few years ago, or even 1 or 2 years ago, because I've also studied a very, very dissimilar language, Farsi. And because I've had to push my brain very hard for Farsi, it's able to grapple with Russian a little bit easier. Now, if I only spoke English and I studied Russian right off the bat, it would go so much slower than if I had, never studied a similar language. So it's kind of a, English, then I move into Romance or Germanic, and then I move on to Slavic or, an Asian language or something like that. Anyway, so that's the major way that I try to separate languages mentally when it comes to listening comprehension. The real challenge is when I will rapidly switch between the Portuguese and the Russian, and this can turn your brain inside out, but I enjoy the challenge. If you want to fry your brain, you should try that. Alright, I hope that you got some value out of this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I will be posting more videos about my Russian and Farsi and everything else on this channel. Alright, thank you for tuning in. See you later.